Hi, I'm Mark Croskery. Welcome to Business Live Extra. In this week's episode, we talk with a man who has built a successful company within the pharmaceutical industry, which continues to go from strength to strength. Join us as we look beyond the dollars and cents to the real movers and shakers in Jamaican business. Our guest today has over 20 years of medical experience in Jamaica and 10 years of experience as an entrepreneur in the field of pharmaceuticals. A physician by profession, he graduated from the University Medical College in Tirupati, India. Migrated to Jamaica in early 1992, he worked as a medical officer in both the public and private sector. He is the principal founder and CEO of India Pharma Jamaica Limited. In 2008, Dr. Mapuri received the Good Physician of the Year Inaugural Award from the Medical Association of Jamaica, MAJ. And in 2019, he was awarded the India Diaspora Award, the highest civilian honor conferred to Indians living abroad. Let's welcome the founder, president, CEO of Bioprist and India Pharma Group, Dr. Guna Muppuri. Dr. Mapuri, welcome to BLE.
Hi, Mark.
Business Live Extra. It's great to have you.
Good to see you.
You know, Guna, I met you many years ago, and it's unbelievable. It's really astonishing to just see how much you've accomplished. You know, a lot of persons out there, you know, investment bankers, you know, businessmen, businesswomen would just be amazed what you've achieved since, say, 2010, 2012. I mean, how do you kind of answer that, or how do you explain a lot of the success you've had?
First of all, Mark, let me say this to you. I go back with our first meeting in 2012, and I do not know if I really accomplished from that time until today. From what you're saying, I have to start believing it. Let me say this: I'm very much humbled and very much honored by your compliments, sir.
Right, yeah. And you are now you're the chairman, you're the president and CEO of India Pharma, but your holding company is Bioprist Holdings as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
Bioprist is the parent entity.
And what's the difference, would you say, between the two entities?
Bioprist is a group holding entity that has several subsidiaries, spanning into medicine, healthcare, BPO and ICT industries, and of course, the core strength, which is pharmaceuticals, which is India Pharma. Mm-hmm. India Pharma is a Jamaican registered and listed company on the stock exchange, on the junior market. So it's pretty much firewalled from any kind of adverse things, you know.
And when did you found, or when did you start India Pharma?
India Pharma is a very interesting journey. I was not really meant to start India Pharma. As a very busy practicing physician in the private sector, I was practicing in Hanover. That was in late 1997 when I started my practice in Hanover, Lucea. I have seen a lot of people, they were struggling to buy the medicines, even though they could see the doctor by paying a fee for them. But they will never be able to fill the prescriptions because of the high cost of the drugs. Mm-hmm. That's the time I thought, let's get some generic drugs approved, particularly.
And were those your years at KPH, or were those your early years in private practice, or when was that period when you really realized that pharmaceutical drugs in Jamaica are really expensive?
Okay, my early years were from 1992 to 1997, mid 1997. My life was in Kingston. I came with only one agenda: coming here, I will do my American exams, and I'm migrating. I have no more second thoughts. I was very focused.
Yes.
But when I moved into the countryside, Lucea, in 1997, I realized at the time that there's a lot of requirement for Jamaican population to access affordable healthcare and affordable medicines. That has completely changed my mindset, and I got into pharmaceutical field with an intent that I would bring a few drugs, get them approved, give it to Jamaican people as my gift, and I would migrate eventually.
So Guna, you came to Jamaica in '92, right?
92 March.
And what led you to come to Jamaica originally? How did you? Was it opportunity? Was it was it marriage, or why Jamaica? Or how did Jamaica come on your radar? As an Indian.
I have to give all that credit to my godfather, my big brother, Dr. Ramesh, who lives in Alabama, Birmingham.
Okay.
He was here. He was about 5-6 years ahead of me in the medical school. He was already here working at Children's Hospital and University Hospital together. And he was the one who made me come here to explore a different life. And at the same time, I could do my internship at the University Hospital of West Indies. Then I could do my American exams. Jamaica had an exam center at the time. I could eventually migrate along with him to the United States. That's how I ended up here.
And how old were you in 1992? I mean, were you a guy in your 20s, a guy in your 30s? Like when you made this such a brass move, you know, and big move to come to a whole new country, an island. How old were you, roughly?
I was 21 years old at the time.
You're 21 years old?
21 years
Okay.
old. Yeah.
And at that time, did you come with any family, or was it just yourself?
Just myself. I already had my childhood sweetheart, my lovely wife. We went to school together from kindergarten.
Did she stay, you know, back in India, and then you just came alone in the initial phase?
She was doing her master's at the time. I waited for her to complete her master's. By the time I was almost 2.5 years here, and I've completed my internship, and I got a medical officer job. Then I decided to go back and get married to her, and we came back.
Yeah, and then you brought her back to Jamaica. And what were those early years like? Was it challenging for you in Jamaica? Was it very receptive for you? I mean, being a, you know, were you a doctor right away at 21?
I wouldn't say there were challenges, because I have seen what's life outside of my kind of social status. I must say that I was very blessed by the God to have a better life than compared to many people. But my experience here was very nice here. First of all, I must say that the love and the affection I received from an average Jamaican citizen was phenomenal.
Yes.
That has enticed me, and even until today, I call very proudly, Jamaica is my home.
Yes.
So we were treated very well. We were embraced very well by everywhere we went. So I didn't encounter any challenges. It was a fantastic experience.
And the first 7 years you mentioned was, you know, 92 to 99 roughly, was at KPH.
No, I've been through all the hospitals, most of the hospitals in Kingston. I started off at University Hospital.
Okay.
Remember, I was an intern. I'm supposed to go for a compulsory rotatory internship to all the hospitals.
That's how it worked. Okay.
That's how it worked.
And what was one of your most fond memories? What's something that whether you connected with somebody, or what was something that was an amazing experience that, you know, you always look back at, or is there anybody that you've kept in touch with, you know, from the public hospital days and doing those rotations?
Every rotation was a unique experience. I only found great human beings at every rotation. I still remember them. Whenever I come to Kingston, I do meet with them. We still maintain that relationship.
Oh. So you've maintained these relationships?
I do, yes.
And Guna, did you ever have a low in those points, you know, where you said, boy, you know, you kind of fed up with this, you might have to go back to India? And any challenging times in your kind of early days before you've become an entrepreneur?
I would say that I never had such kind of feeling that I made a mistake by coming to Jamaica. But only one thing I can tell you, that the life was really, financially, was very hard.
The financial stability?
Stability was very hard, because I can tell you, my first salary was 6,000 plus at University Hospital.
Jamaican dollars?
Jamaican dollars per month.
Per month?
Per month.
Okay, you remember where the dollar was in those days?
Dollar was about $21 at the time.
Wow. Okay. Were you by that time, was your wife here? Were you on 2 salaries, or was it just 1 salary?
She wasn't here at the time. By the time my wife joined me, my salary was almost $30,000
for the month.
For the month.
And did you have kids at that point, or was it just the 2 of you?
In 1994 we got married. At the time we had the first child in 1997. But the dollar started sliding, you know.
Yes.
So I can very proudly say that I always try to save $100 a month.
So regardless of how challenging it was, you were trying to put something away, like a partner plan, or just putting some money away?
Oh, just straight. I mean, I didn't even have a proper bank account at the time. Well, I opened a bank account at the time. So I will make sure that I'll just save $100 a month. The reason being that if I save for 12 months, that can buy a ticket to go to India and come back.
Yeah. And how did you get through those times? You know, mentally and everything. How did you get through those times?
Mentally, I'm always a very strong person. Growing as a kid, I was never deterred by any kind of thing that would upset me. I always look at a solution when you have a problem. Problems never bothered me. I will always explore for solution, better solutions. So I was in a different world, you know.
And from there, in a way, you graduated to private practice. Was it, you mentioned, say, your godfather, he got you to Jamaica. Was there a mentor, or was there even like a joint investor or somebody who said to you, Guna, it's time to now jump into private practice world. Let's make some real money or big money, or was it just a natural progression for you?
There was no such mentor at the time. The only mentor I had was my godfather, Dr. Ramesh, who migrated to the United States, who was literally very upset with me because I did not migrate to the United States. I said that
with him at the time, or following his course?
Because our idea was to go and do our master's. Now he has about 6 hospitals and several hotels in the United States.
Okay.
So he has seen what the life was, and he was offering me that kind of lifestyle. But I was more kind of gravitated towards what's the difference I can make to an average man or any society I am living in.
So is this a period, Guna, where your national interest now, your love for Jamaica started to kind of click and come in?
When I went to Lucea, everything has changed. My mindset my thought process has changed, because look at these people. For example, now what really has pinned me down was at the time when I did the research, the leading cause of deaths in Jamaica was stroke disorder. Stroke is something, a complication that will follow an uncontrolled hypertension or diabetes. At the time, the drug 30 days supply prophylactic medicine was about $110 for 30 tablets. When an average patient do not have enough money to buy the regular prescription, where will you have the money to buy that?
So you started to just, so you're seeing this from your public sector days, and then crossing over. We're going to come back to that point. Yeah. And we take our first break on Business Live Extra. More when we return. Welcome back to Business Live Extra. Bioprist Pharmaceuticals is an award-winning company with its core business focused on pharmaceuticals, healthcare, consumer products. Indus Pharma Jamaica Limited is an independent subsidiary of the group. Indus Pharma started its operations with 6 basic prescription drug presentations in 2005. Now it has more than 100 drug presentations in the market. Indus Pharma is a local custodian of Bioprist branded drug formulations to be marketed, distributed, and sold in Jamaica. Our guest is the CEO of Bioprist Group, Dr. Mapuri, and we are talking with him about 2 companies' evolution.
Thank you.
You're talking about the private practice and just Lucea. What changed your life? Was it just that Lucea was a bit more slower paced than, say, Kingston, or was it just a different vibe down there, or what was a game changer for you?
One of the reasons why I left Kingston at the time, the same person who always said, I will never leave Kingston. But with the traffic getting worse every day, I requested the Minister of Health Department to send me to a place where there is no stoplight. So they offered me either Portland, Port Anthony, or Lucea, Hanover.
So you wanted to go to a place where there's no stoplight?
Yes.
So you felt a bit stressed out in Kingston at the time?
I was always impatient with the traffic, and because I need to go from Mona to KPH, it was very time consuming at the time. So I asked for those, any place that doesn't have stoplight, but at the time there was an opening in Port Antonio and Lucea, Hanover. I opted for Lucea because Lucea is closer to Montego Bay, nice beaches, golfing, airport was there. So I said to myself,
smart man. At the time, you had any relationships, any links in Lucea, or you just took a kind of a wild approach to it and said, I'm going to go to Lucea?
There was a time when me and my wife, we drove once to Lucea. Before you reach Lucea, where Grand Palladium Hotel is right now, that caught us, the beauty of
just
the coastline. I said, you know what? I like Port Antonio too. We went there too. But we didn't like the drive going to Port Antonio.
The windy roads.
Windy roads.
Okay.
So we ended up in Lucea.
Great. And your private practice now, it started to get going, booming. Your personal reputation really growing, with the people, with Jamaicans. I guess, with the business community as well. How big did your private practice get to, Guna?
A private practice was not really meant to, I was not meant to go for private practice. It was, again, necessity was is the mother of invention, and it was like a survival of the fittest. Kingston, by the time we got married, we had the first baby, we were able to save $500 a month. We thought countryside will be nice. Definitely it was a beautiful life, but financially it was not rewarding at all. I was forced to go into private practice because I couldn't even survive every month, and I had to be borrowing at least $10,000 a month at the time from friends and close friends until I was able to survive on my own. That's how I was forced into private practice.
And the the 2 or 3 offices, I think 3 offices when you're at your peak.
I had 3 offices.
3 offices. Were these all in Lucea, or were these spread out kind of on the on that side of the island?
It was spread out. It starts from the borders of St. James and Hanover. It went all the way into Orange Bay, Negril. Okay. Green Island. Green Island was my office.
And were you covering all of them, or at your peak, did you actually have, like, say, managers or a doctor in each office, or how did you handle this whole growth?
Oh, okay. I need to tell you one thing about Jamaican culture. Jamaican people do not like to change, have a new face in their offices, doctors' offices. So I had to be playing triple role. Okay. I would start as early as like 6:37 in the morning in Hopewell, Hanover. By 11, 12 o'clock, I'm in Lucea, and by 8 o'clock, I leave Lucea, go to Green Island. By the time I'm done with Green Island, it will be like 11, 12 in the night.
So it was all about scheduling the appointments and everything?
No, it's all walk-in. There are no appointments.
Yeah. But Guna, I know you as being very organized and you're very methodical. So were you running these offices as like a doctor who would say, 11 o'clock means 11 o'clock, or did 11 o'clock mean 1 o'clock? When you have to wait on a doctor 60 minutes or 90 minutes, or because I know you're an on-time guy.
Okay. In the private practice, especially with the public, you cannot regulate your time.
Yeah.
You cannot close the doors on your patient. That's, again, the medical ethics. You have to make sure that you serve the last patient before you move to the next office. So almost every day I end up apologizing to the patients waiting at the other offices because
yeah.
They would understand. There will be, there was no such kind of, there was no culture like appointment culture. In the countryside, private practice, they're all walk-in, first comes, first served. So my offices were always packed with patients. I have to, my family has to sacrifice a lot to make sure the patients get the service.
Get the service. Now, when you started India's Pharma, let's say early 2000s, 2005 or so, did you sell the practices? Is that how you got the equity capital, or to this day, do you continue the private practice on the medical side, or did you, divest it?
One thing I can tell you, the riskiest thing that I have ever done in my life was moving from medical practice into a new world which I did not know. I was not aware of the pros and cons. I just had only one agenda. I need to subsidize the drug cost, make the drug affordable and available. I did not know that there were going to be a lot of hidden challenges. So financially, I was broke. By the 8th month, it was like a nosedive.
This is on the India's Pharma side? Or
yeah, when we started India's Pharma.
And really, in starting it, it was just you and your wife?
Me and my wife, yes.
Yeah, and it was in the early stages. What was it? Was it just a generic, say, pharmaceuticals or generic drugs, or what was the product in those days?
Oh, actually, I was even counseled by one of the drug regulatory authority officers at the Ministry of Health. Guna, are you sure that what you're doing would make any sense? Because she knows they were the grandfather drugs, almost getting obsolete drugs. Those are the drugs that were given to me by one of those drug companies in the early days to get them registered and start the business. So actually they were dying drugs, those 6 drugs. That's why the business was like a nosedive. I had to go back to medical practice, do the same morning 7 to night 11. Whatever the money I would earn, I would pump into the drug business, pharmaceuticals, to pay the salaries, to pay for the inventory. And my wife did a lot of early days work.
Yeah. So like most entrepreneurs, a lot of persons, whether it was friends, family, or relationships you had from KPH days and so forth, a lot of people just thought you were crazy.
They said that Guna is a lunatic guy. He must have stayed back.
High risk. It's not going to work out.
It's not high risk. They said I'm a mad fellow. Melting out everything, all the savings. I can still remember my daughter's savings account still has $43 Jamaican at Scotiabank.
Scotia, okay.
I drained every penny that we saved for her. Everything, we wiped out everything.
Everything, yeah. And before we get to go in public and everything with Indus Pharma, you know, where was the tipping point, the turning curve? You know, a few years after 2005, or when did Indus Pharma, where did you see the breakthrough? When, you know, let's say maybe your wife became a little bit de-stressed and things started to feel better, or when did the cash flows start to come into the kitty?
First of all, I had to be very honest. She's still under a lot of stress. She will never get de-stressed as long as I'm there. Because I keep moving my goalposts. I keep raising my bar very high.
You're still ambitious to this day?
Very ambitious.
You still want to do more?
Well, you must say that I'm ambitious, but I keep moving my goalposts. I feel like I never achieved my targets.
So there's still a bigger picture for Indus Pharma and Bioprist?
Very big picture for Jamaica through Bioprist group of companies. Yes.
So when did you see that light at the end of the tunnel?
Oh, the light at the end of the tunnel came in the 4th year.
Okay, so like roughly 2009.
Yes.
And was it a breakthrough product that you brought into Jamaica? Was it a contract? Was it, you know, what was a game changer?
First of all, the confidence from the retail sector. They saw the consistency in the business. They saw the quality of the drug. Of course, we were able to capture the market for a couple of blockbuster drugs.
Okay.
That was a breakthrough.
Yes.
We were able to lock horns with the mighty and the mightiest of the drug companies in the world, just because we followed the rule, we followed the book of, we followed the patent acts and all those things. We were able to unearth the patent issues related to one of the most needed drug for hypertension in Jamaica at the time. That was, there was already generic available for it, but unfortunately that got into a legal battle where 2 other drug companies were into court battle. There was no generic available at the time. I made a very bold move. Having the drug, generic for the drug launch, I was cornered by this major US giant, but I was able to fight with them outside of the court because I couldn't even afford a lawyer at the time.
And your cost was better. That was that within?
The cost, not my cost, a generic cost will always be better. But at the time, there was no drug company that was willing to take the risk to fight the mightiest.
And this is like the things with, like, as you said, like cholesterol, diabetes,
this was
hypertension, all these things.
Hypertension.
Yeah. And what was that drug called, or like what are some of your top selling drugs now at Indus Pharma? Like what's on the shelves now?
That's one of the top selling drugs for amlodipine for hypertension. And that day I said, if this drug will be off patent, or if I'm allowed to sell, I'll make it cheaper than a table salt. And today it is.
So that's one of your top, call it, you know, like let's say within the last 12 months, you generated just under 800 million of revenue in Indus Pharma. That's one of your core products.
I would not call that one as number 1 now. We have other ones which have taken number 1 position. We are very big into hematinics, blood builders, to treat anemia.
Okay.
I will say that our company pretty much cornered that market. Anything that's for anemia, we have 2-3 variants of it: HB Fortex, HB3+, HB Gem.
Okay. Do any of the basic kind of products, or I'll be careful I use the word basic, but does like a competitor say Panadol or Cetamol or anything in those type of more ones that we might use more frequently as Jamaicans? Do you have products in those markets? And
we do.
Are those significant contributors as well, or just more minor?
I was coming to that. The other next in the lineup is Flexim. Flexim.
Okay.
You have a lot of painkillers, anti-inflammatories, muscle rubs. That's straight anti-inflammatories and painkillers. Yeah. What we did, that's the next thing we can talk about, is our company, what we pioneered into making drug cocktails. We create a market, we own the market. We don't compete with anybody else.
Guna, you know, some of the names are catchy, they're cool names. Are you the brain behind the names? Do you get to actually name the drug cocktails, or do they get named overseas, or how does that whole marketing concept go behind the R&D?
I will very proudly say that it's my intellectual property.
Okay.
When I decided to...
So like you named Flexim?
Flexim was named, all the names were named by me. For example, now, there's a appetite stimulant tonic for the children called Grobitol, Grow Big and Tall.
So grow big and
Straight,
proud, like
straight message.
flex, and you just add the him.
Flex him.
But you drop the
Flex him
H or
because
something.
My Flexim has not just a painkiller, it has muscle relaxant. Our slogan is back to work in minutes, either the rub or the tablets. You know. Likewise, Grobitol is our thing. Coming to that point of intellectual property, on one weekend I sat and wrote 550 brand names, out of which 300 plus were approved by Jamaican Intellectual Property Office. They're trademarked.
The trademark. So the sales are generated, you know, Indus Pharma sells the products and everything. Do you keep the IP at the Bioprist level or at the Indus Pharma level?
What we did in this particular scenario, the way how we structured it when we did the IPO,
yes,
is a direct transfer of the price, direct from the manufacturer
okay,
to Indus Pharma.
Okay.
There's no middleman. Bioprist will not get any profits.
in terms of those types of products and so forth.
No, straight away it goes, everything goes to Indus.
Right.
And after whatever the volume of business we had at the time of IPO, anything excess that we have grown over the number of subsequent years, we might get a small royalty for Bioprist.
Yeah. Fantastic and great names. We're going to come back to that.
Thank you.
And we take another break on Business Live Extra. More when we return. Even more to come in Business Live Extra. Indus Pharma motto is caring for the nation's health. In 2018, it was the first pharmaceutical company listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, JSE. At the end of 2020, Indus Pharma recorded their comprehensive income at Jamaican $278.06 million, registering a 104.35% increase over the prior year. Despite the COVID-19 pandemic disruption, Indus Pharma was able to cut its administrative and other expenses by $18.4 million last year, adding to the bottom line growth. They have plans for growth, acquiring 3 acres of prime real estate along the North Coast Highway, where the company plans to build its new headquarters and multi-purpose complex, slated for completion within the next 3 years. Our guest is the CEO of Indus Pharma, Dr. Mapuri, and we are talking with him about building on success.
Thank you, Mark, again.
Yeah. You know, Guna, we know you love real estate. You know, the company, and you talk about 3-4 pillars and what the company does. What is it that you like about real estate? Is it the underlying value? Is it the drive, the gusto of the real estate? Is it improvement in potentially the company's balance sheet, whether it's a holding company, you know, whether you're the majority shareholder in this pharma? And, you know, we just spoke about your plans for future growth and the new head office, but, you know, some entrepreneurs shy away from it. Some entrepreneurs, you know, love real estate, but you have a passion for it as well, plus your operating company. What has driven you towards it in your career?
I would say intuition-driven aspect of that business. There's also a social cause underlying that real estate acquisitions. If you know my journey as an entrepreneur, if you look at historically, I have been buying all the depressed assets, white elephants in the country. Mm-hmm. There was a time somebody wrote an article about me that I'm a repurposing specialist. Truly, it is. I mean, I did not know I was doing it until that journalist wrote about me like that.
So at that time, no persons thought you were not mad anymore. They thought you were crazier.
Well, no, yes, in a way, crazier. I mean, but at the same time,
and you proved them wrong again.
I proved them several times wrong, and also slowly they start believing in me.
Yes.
Especially the banking sector. Guna, yes, he might sound crazier. Then they said he's a risk taker.
But and in a way, I mean, of course, not just your track record and so, but it's like you're becoming like Midas, as they say.
Indeed, they said that.
Things that you're touching.
Anything I touch in real estate is like a Midas touch. Truly, it happened.
Yes.
I will say it's all God's, it's all divine intervention. Look at the jockey factories. I remember when I couldn't survive as a medical officer in Lucea, I went and stood at that gate for almost half an hour to see the general manager to allow me as a part-time physician to see their employees. Can you believe I acquired both the factories in 2000
That's the old jockey lands.
Both jockey factories in 15. Acquired both of them.
And presently, what's happening there now? Has anything changed on those properties?
Yes, it has changed. The idea of acquiring those two plants, again, to repurpose them to create a new world of economy in the rural Jamaica. So I looked at Lucea as a center for academic institution like offshore medical school. And Sandy Bay, right beside Trial Golf Club, that's another big property. Convert that into a BPO industry. The BPO industry was booming in 2015. That property has become the home for a client of Amazon out of California. Right now, they have almost close to 1,000 employees working there. Lucea, we decided not to do that concept in Lucea. Lucea is now being converted into live, shop, work, and play kind of a concept to bring more investments into Lucea, build a neighborhood.
And is that one of your kind of knowledge park ideas? Or?
Correct. That's a knowledge park idea, bringing investments and overseas clients, especially people in the ICT sector, they are more gravitating towards rural Jamaica, not very rural, next door to Montego Bay. That's the kind of concept that we looked at it. It worked out for us.
And Guna, in hindsight, how did a guy like you, you came here, worked at KPH, or as you said, interns, private practice, but where you are today, it's just amazing. As you said, you've proven the naysayers no, you've shown that it can work. But do you use, whether it's consultants or so, is it your personal network? I mean, you've shown that you can reach global reach from from Jamaica, and you were coming from 7 years of public practice. So you talked to a lot of other entrepreneurs out there. They say it's impossible, but you've shown in the last, I'd say, 8 years, knowing some unbelievable reach from Jamaica.
Fortunately, I never used any consultant until to date to develop my business. I always say this, when you have a vision driven by passion, automatically wealth creation generation becomes a byproduct of it. You don't need anybody else. The passion and the perseverance. I'll give you a small example. When I bought the 2 jockey factories, everybody said, what are you going to do with it? I said, I don't know. But I ended up in Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona, at a conference. I was like this. I was listening to the presentation made by the former director of Microsoft, John Browning. After that, I was able to engage into a conversation. He was unwilling to speak with me. By the time the day ended, he came and sat with me and he started speaking with me. Within 2 weeks, he was in Montego Bay with me. We toured around all the facilities, and the rest was the history. He put a lot of word about us.
And you raise a good point. I don't think Jamaica doesn't necessarily have an investment Cesar. Whether government or opposition, it's been spoken about a lot. From whether it's economic standpoint, maybe the country needs an investment Cesar. But what you did in a case like that by being at a conference, in a way, it's like you're representing national interests and you're trying to bring in FDI.
I truly did that. Fortunately, when I went there, I also requested JAMPRO to accompany me.
Okay.
I said, there's an opportunity that's existing. Religiously, they came, one of the representatives of JAMPRO came with me, and the top man from Gates Foundation was there with me.
Okay.
And he recommended those locations to those prospective investors in the United States. That's how I was able to bring them into the country through JAMPRO.
And you've seen the potential return from that?
Well, that has changed my fortunes.
Yes, to see that.
Yes.
And the head office now, where you are presently now, or let's say Bioprist, you've done some renovations, massive renovations, 4-story building and so forth, but you also have plans now for other real estate development.
That particular property where we are now, the head office in Freeport, is totally knocked down, and we built a brand new facility there. I must say that I can speak a lot about the investor friendliness of Jamaica and the banking sector, especially the public sector banks, Development Bank of Jamaica, Mr. Milwet and Reynolds, the managing director, and the general manager, Edison Galbraith. I have to thank him wherever they are now, in their offices now. They believed in me, they helped me. Funding came, the low-cost funding came. I built that facility. Now we have about 600 employees working there. We repaid the loan 2 months ago to DBG, well ahead of the tenure.
And so you build on your track record again.
Within 3 years, we paid back all the loan.
Yeah. And has there been a strategy, whether it's from the board, Guna, or yourself, to is it building shareholder value or your value as well by acquiring these strategic real estate assets besides the going concern of the company? But is there a long-term strategic foundation plan? We've seen companies like Panjam, for example, and that family do it on the stock exchange. Only a few others, but just a handful of companies. But you're very, you're strategically heavy in strategic real estate. I mean, was there a long-term plan here, or has it kind of just happened?
Very good question. Again, I do not have any long-term plans or immediate plans. It's all intuition-driven. Now, what I believe, it's very critical for any businessman. I belong to a profession where everything is intangible asset, intellectual property.
Mm-hmm.
What I believe is always to bring value to the investors by adding a tangible asset. So always, the investor who trusts me has something to latch on to on any rainy day. That too, I will go in a strategic way where I have an inbuilt value before even acquire it. By the time I acquire it and add to the company's books, we really have enormous capital gain from day one. That's what is one of my strategy, and I have been doing it. And now, let's say, for example, the listed company Indies, strategically we acquired prime land, approximately more than quarter kilometer of highway frontage near the airport. We are going to be the gateway or the entry to Montego Bay.
And that would be a separate acquisition.
That's Indies Pharma's acquisition, not Bioprist.
Right.
That one, less than a year now.
But strategically, Guna, with the core profitability, I mean, the profits are good at Indies Pharma. 200 million plus, your margins are well over 33%. Well, that probably the highest net margin on the stock market, or one of the highest. I mean, the only comparative I've seen is Mailpack. They're in logistics, so you have high margins. But that profitability and Bioprist being majority shareholder in Indies Pharma, it's given almost you have even more competitive advantage to the deals at either company.
Yes, we have very good say when we're negotiating the deals and also raising the funds. Mm-hmm. Raising funds is a non-stop activity at the Bioprist level right now. But what I try to do is for Indies especially, I want to secure Indies with a massive real estate portfolio where the company can sit on solid, tangible asset. And
in your mind, it's, as you said earlier, because of all the IP you have, intellectual property, intangibles. So you've thought about that, and you're looking at it as a way to protect your shareholders or your investors.
Correct.
But is there any plan or possibility if the portfolio keeps growing at the rate you are growing it, whether it's repurposing, successful, would you maybe be looking to spin off the real estate portfolio one day into a separate real estate company like what we've seen, Kingston Properties, a few companies do?
Right. I don't think so. Anything is there in the immediate short order for Indies. Indies is very focused with pharmaceuticals. I just want to create an asset based to it. I just did it. But you may never know. Things are very dynamic and very fluid. As we continue to grow, when it will go back to the board, we'll make a decision at that point. But on the other side of Bioprist, we are going to be, we are strongly inclined to list a couple more entities on the stock exchange.
That are held under Bioprist?
Under Bioprist. Okay. That will be primarily something geared towards capital and real estate portfolio.
We're going to get to that because you are a dynamic guy. All right. We take another break on Business Live Extra. More when we return with Dr. Mapuri, founder and CEO. Welcome back to Business Live Extra. COVID-19 pandemic is a defining global health crisis of our time and has caused a mass burden of loss of life as well as socio-economic upheaval. However, there is hope. The COVID-19 vaccine produces protection against the disease as a result of developing an immune response to the SARS-CoV-2 virus. Developing immunity throughout vaccination means there is a reduced risk of developing the illness, and this immunity helps you fight the virus if exposed. The Jamaican government has set a target of 70% of people being vaccinated by March 2022. Montego Bay-based Bioprist Pharmaceuticals plans to exclusively import and distribute Covaxin, a vaccine made in India by a manufacturer, Bharat Biotech. Bioprist is therefore well placed to aid Jamaica's recovery to benefit our health and wider economy. For a final time, founder and CEO, Dr. Guna Muppuri of Bioprist and India Pharma Group. Guna, welcome back.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah. And on that note, how do you feel so far about Jamaica's and just also what's happening globally? The vaccine situation. Biden has come out and said something like 175 million, 200 million numbers. Where Jamaica is now, I think just recently, the vaccines would have fully gone through their cycle or finished. But how do you feel so far just about everything happening?
First of all, I must commend the government of Jamaica, the health minister, Mr. Dr. Christopher Tufton, and the office of the Prime Minister. The way how they managed the pandemic crisis, it could have been really bad, but the way how they have managed it, it's wonderful. Because we are a country that we do not have much resources in terms of pharmaceutical manufacturing or vaccine manufacturing. We are solely we are dependent on imports to come from those countries who can make vaccines for us. At this time, the best thing is the containment of the disease, social distancing, sanitization practices, lockdown. When you want to have medicine, and even that there's no guarantee with the medicine, the best thing is to contain ourselves. This is for us to survive for next couple of years. And what they have done is phenomenally, I'm very impressed. When I saw what India did, Prime Minister Modi did, I was very afraid in the beginning, 1.3 billion people, how are they going to control the disease? Look at the way how they manage it. Now when I see, on a scale of 1.3 billion for that size, for the size of Jamaica, the largest of the English-speaking Caribbean nation, what we did is exceptionally very well.
And your press release, in this Pharma, it says it's subject to GOJ approval, of course. Now,
indeed,
how is that coming along? It's your secret sauce. If you can say, but do you think it's going to be realistic, or do you think that GOJ or the public sector is going to keep it to their coffers and not allow any private sector? How do you see this all panning out for India's Pharma?
No, absolutely. There's some misunderstanding about that, if anybody has to speak like that. GOJ has been very clear, which I mean to say the Standards and Regulations Division, Pharmaceutical Regulatory Affairs, our regulations are such that you are not supposed to approve any drug for human consumption in Jamaica without the WHO pre-qualification. That's what we meant.
The WHO, okay.
WHO pre-qualification. It has nothing to do with the government of Jamaica approvals. Government of Jamaica is bound to approve the drug only if it's WHO approved, because we need to ensure the safety of our public. That's what we have been doing as a drug company.
So you mean a private sector or like a private drug company in Jamaica can, import it or bring it in, but of course it has to be WHO and you have to get their approval. Yeah. Like anybody else.
Like anybody, like any drug we take for anything, it must have a certificate of pharmaceutical product, COPP.
Okay.
You will not get a COPP without WHO approvals.
But it's not, let's say it's not India's Pharma that will administer it. It will still go through their typical blitzes or through the ministry's, say distribution.
Okay.
It's just that you'll be the importer.
Okay. The way how Bioprist has done this transaction is to make sure we lock enough supply of doses of vaccine to come into the country from the Indian manufacturers. And our role is to make sure that my home being Jamaica, I took that proactive step.
Excellent. Yeah.
To speak with the manufacturers in India.
And Guna, do you think if we need as much as, like what they call herd immunity, and, we have so much famous phrases and words now, pivot and all these words, but you think if we need another, whether it's million or, 1.5 million, etc., if you can say, do you think you'll be able to source as much as another million or more doses?
That's the commitment Bioprist gave to government of Jamaica, mainly National Health Fund. Our job is to get the vaccines to National Health Fund. And whatever they could do, they could do. Whatever they decided, the government of Jamaica decided that it go into the private sector, that's the time we will pass on the additional volumes to India's Pharma to distribute it. India's Pharma is not going to administrate it. Bioprist is not going to administrate it. We will supply first NHF to meet our national requirements, which you rightly said, herd immunity. let's look at like 70% of the population must be vaccinated. I'm looking at our country safely will need 4 million doses to accomplish the herd
Assuming
immunity.
it's a 2-dose.
Assuming oh yes.
2-dose, yeah.
Two dose, that means we're looking at 2 million people
Right.
times 2, 4 million doses
4
is
million.
what I consider as a herd immunity for a country.
Okay. So it's possible we could supersede or let's say really beat that March 2022 expectation. That could be like an outer date.
To achieve herd immunity? Okay, let me put it this way. If Covaxin, which we are going to carry from Bharat Biotech, if we can get our WHO approvals by July of this year, I am very positive. We have already made plans in such a way that within 8 months,
Then
we want to deliver to Jamaica if Jamaican government is willing to take Covaxin from us.
Because it has to get the WHO approval now, and then after it gets that, you get into the manufacturing process and all that stuff.
But currently, the manufacturing is a continuous process.
Okay.
I have to say honestly that socially, we are very well known to the family of Bharat Biotech. So we have a little bit of word to say to influence the management of Bharat Biotech to consider to do an extraordinary favor for Jamaica,
Yes.
towards Jamaica,
Yes.
so we could get some more doses into the country at an earlier time.
So substantially now, Guna, India's Pharma is positioning itself. I mean, Bioprist is here, but India's Pharma is really positioning itself no different than a Merck, a Pfizer. From a global benchmarking standpoint, if you get a deal like this done, plus all that you've achieved already, you're really getting into that type of, relative value benchmarking, as they say.
If you look at our the news and the publication and the filings of stock exchange, India's Pharma has already entered into that kind of league from last year through Sagicor's bond, which we raised $800 million, out of which half of the money we spent on the real estate in Montego Bay. The remaining portion, 50% of the funds, we invested in the US market to develop our own drugs to be approved by the US
that's
FDA.
through India's Pharma.
Strictly India's Pharma has done it.
And onlooker may say, that seems like a lot of risk. Why, even as a Jamaican, a Jamaica market, as you said, it has to get still used to IP and intellectual property. But seeing you spend, hundreds of millions of dollars, let's say whatever the number was, but roughly 4 million, 5 million US or so on 2 research and development, R&D products. It looks like a lot of money. In the US market, that's peanuts, small amount of money for R&D. But how will the company get value back for that?
Okay, what we're spending is approximately $400+ million on the 2 drugs. But the market cap for the 2 drugs is currently $740 million. If we look at the $740 million, it's 3 times the Jamaican market, entire market, drug market. That's what I'm heading forward. Why should I sit in Jamaica and I have to be selling on low volume? I'll go to the largest drug market in the world.
So this R&D, for clarity, these 2 R&Ds you're targeting is not really just for Jamaica or the Caribbean. It's really to target the US market for India's Pharma.
Actually, India's Pharma will have the global intellectual property rights. But our focus is right now, the largest market for these 2 drugs is United States. In the United States, we would like to sell it by ourselves through distribution channels. Outside of the United States, like Europe and all those countries, we would give the IP and we earn a royalty from that.
Do you feel do you plan to partner with somebody there? Or will you have to open an office in the US to be competitive, or will you have to partner with a US pharmaceutical firm?
Partnership in the sense, we'll only have a distribution partner. We don't need to open an office there.
Okay.
That's the strength of owning intellectual property.
So
you can sit anywhere in the
you'll have a
world.
distribution partner, and however you split the profit share or revenue share, some type of deal.
That will come up the day when we get the US FDA approval, which is 2023, is our expected
Is your
time.
target date?
Target date is 2023.
So the R&D game is a little bit of a longer game, but as your net margins show in Jamaica, the net margins are good.
Very good.
Yeah.
R&D, we already completed the R&D. We developed the drug already. The drug has gone into commercial batch production right now, which will go into stability chambers for 6 months. The stability studies of the drug will be done. By the end of the year, we will compile the dossier at US FDA, which will take another 18 months from the end of this year. Let's say by mid-2023, we will have the drug approved for commercial
Programs.
sales.
Yeah. So Guna, we know India's Pharma is rocking. You know, I mean, near 800 million revenues, 200 million profits, great numbers. That's solid. Your head office is going. But Bioprist now, you know, visionary company again. You might have some parts that you take public, as you mentioned. But you've talked about these pillars, you know, healthcare, drug pharmaceuticals, you know, plans for healthcare facilities. And so where do you see Bioprist now that India's Pharma, in a way, is on autopilot? Where is Bioprist going over the next couple of years?
COVID.
And yourself.
Yes. Oh. First of all, let me say about myself. I'll be the same old guy from Mona trying to take a city bus to KPH and struggling. I still feel I'm the same guy, struggling to survive. But what I would like to do is, I just want to make a difference to our Jamaican healthcare fabric. I've seen enough of Jamaica healthcare fabric, which I'm very disappointed, and I feel that I did not do anything other than getting the generic drugs and making medicines available and affordable. When look at the healthcare, the infrastructure, it is not where we must be living, you know. Not only that, now look at COVID. COVID has changed the entire healthcare dynamics. It has caused a devastating effect, not on the hospitality sector, hotels and tourism, including the healthcare sector. The workforce are fatigued. The infrastructure is completely ruined, you know. So what is that we need to have? That's an opportunity that I want to look at. We already have a framework, medical tourism.
For Bioprist.
For Bioprist.
Yeah.
We already have a framework in the country. But everybody is taking the framework of hotel industry or BPO sector or financial sector, but nobody is touching healthcare sector because they think that is going to burn them.
They really think it's like a loss leader.
It's a loss leader.
It's going to create tons of losses.
It is indeed a loss leader, but I'm willing to take the risk, and I already made many steps forward in that direction. I want to bring the first world healthcare into this country. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to make Jamaica as a regional hub for healthcare, not just for Montego Bay or Jamaica, but the entire CARICOM. That's my dream. We are already at a far advanced stage. We want to build a world-class medical city, healthcare tourism, medical tourism, so we could complement our tourism product. And also we are looking at...
So is your concept kind of like a health city, like what's in Cayman, or is it more like a health campus, or, I mean, is it a kind of a focal centric point, I mean, in Jamaica?
It is much bigger than whatever you said. It's going to be a city by itself, where you come in, you live there, you work there, you go to school there. That's the kind of concept. And we acquired enough lands to build that city in Montego Bay near the airport.
Excellent. Yeah, because a lot of times persons have said, you know, if we, just like how the offshore financial center has never really got going, unfortunately, for Jamaica. But a lot of persons have said, you know, although all of our centers are really in Kingston, you know, an offshore financial center could be fantastic in Montego Bay. You know, yes, there's a airport there just like Kingston, but the airport is there. It's so close, lots of amenities and so forth. So your concept is this health center in Montego Bay.
Both healthcare and academic institutions that's related to all medicine and healthcare professions.
So like a Bioprist center.
We're looking at a Bioprist Institute of Medical Sciences.
Yeah. And going to the reality, you know, meeting you many years ago, as you said, person said you were that madman, you were that scientist, everything, but you did it, and you've not only done it, you've conquered it so many times. Real estate, everything, done it time and time again. So I guess the next Guna transition is to now get this Bioprist Health Center up and running.
Absolutely. My next 10 years of journey is going to be a transformative and a revolutionary product, proudly made in Jamaica, owned by Jamaica. Every citizen of this country and the future generations of Jamaica will cherish it, will enjoy the fruit of it, and we will bring definitely a lot of healthcare economy into the country. I'm very optimistic about that.
And there's no reason we should doubt you, given your track record. And that's what COVID has taught us. We need better healthcare as Jamaicans.
I have to add a point to this, Mark. It's not that what I'm saying, what I think. You must also appreciate what the country has provided. I do not know how many people appreciate what Jamaica has, resources in Jamaica, what it offers, the framework, Jamaica Special Economic Zone Authority, Ministry of Economic Growth, JAMPRO, the work what we do, it's unbelievable. It's such an investor-friendly country. And people talk about corruption. I don't even know what's corruption. I have been here almost 30 years. A smile and a good word is all you need. People will do anything for you.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful country. It's a paradise, a real paradise. And that's why I made this as my home. And I will give anything to this home. This is what I always say, that nothing belongs to me, Mark. I came here with 2 main bags and 1 handbag. When I'm going empty-handed. But I always say that everything belongs to the country. The country means its resources. Its resources means the people. The people of the country owns everything. Not you, not me. We are just middlemen, or we are the executive officers who are bestowed with that knowledge and intellectual capital to make them and deliver them to the public. That's our job. Nothing belongs to us.
That's great.
Yeah.
Guna Muppuri, Chairman of Bioprist, and evidence of a fantastic Jamaica success story. Thanks for being on Business Live Extra.
Thank you. Thank
That's
you, Mark.
it for another edition of Business Live Extra. Remember, you can't enjoy wealth if you're not in good health. We've been talking with Dr. Guna Muppuri of India's Pharma and Bioprist Group. Don't forget, you can watch us online at cvmtv.com/videos/Business Live Extra. Thanks for joining us.